Hello, beautiful people. My name is Carrie. I use tarot and oracle cards to bring you messages for your mundane and spiritual growth. Today, I have a message for you about a sense of block and disconnect you're feeling, and some assistance from your guides to help you get unstuck. Guiding our reading today, we have Ecstasis and Justice. Okay. Now, this can seem like a little bit of a tough love reading, but rest assured it is, in fact, a love reading. That is the love that the universe has for you, the love that your guides have for you. And, it's going to help you gain some clarity on how your situation is manifesting, how the difficulties, blocks, or disconnect that you're experiencing are coming from your state of emotions and what to do about it. Okay. So, starting off, we have the Queen of Cups. Okay. Now, the Queen of Cups is a very intuitive woman, very creative woman. She, besides having this mastery over her emotions, she has an understanding, of depth, of the inner worlds. She has perception of the psychic realms. I'm seeing this little group of, I would assume, otters or seals down here, and they're looking at her with, a sense of admiration, while, you have the whale back here just kind of doing its own thing. The birds all kind of doing their own thing. So you have some attention from some individuals who have realized that your perception, there's something interesting going on here. They're kind of like, ooh, who is this? However, you probably are not being perceived correctly for what you're offering here. In the Temperance card here, I'm seeing this angel, he's juggling these balls, right? And I'm getting this idea, this perception that your insights into things, that the, understanding that you have is being perceived kind of in the same light as like a parlor trick, as opposed to the larger wisdom that this angel brings, instead of realizing this is, a higher being, or that there's higher consciousness or, energy coming through. People are just like, well, this is a cool, neat little trick you have. Now, you're looking at the angel here, the triangle within the square, right? That means the divinity within the human. I have a feeling that people, they see the human, but they're not seeing the core, the essence of who you are. And this is kind of evidenced to me by the next two cards. We have the Ace of Cups and this Seven of Wands. Now, the Ace of Cups represents, an emotional outpouring, a empathetic connectedness that is your intention, right? However, because you are experiencing certain difficulties, because you find yourself fending off against perceived opposition, this is clouding people's perception of you. And I get this from the fog here in the background on these mountains, right? The perception of what you bring is being distorted, diluted, or like I said, clouded by this energy that you have, this opposition that you are experiencing or perceiving. Now, there is a solution to this, and that would be the Queen of Wands. Sunlight dissipates fog. Warmth, energy, this receptiveness, maybe because you're experiencing difficulties, you kind of have this idea, an older concept about how you want to approach dealing with the problems. You get in this more kind of headstrong, kind of more masculine type of energy. You get on the offensive or, defensive. And what we're getting here from the Queen of Wands is this idea to be warm instead of hot, not the heat of anger and aggression, but the warmth that brings light, that brings comfort, brings safety. You are being advised to learn to relax, okay? Build up that warmth, build up that, that emotional friendliness that you want to feel, okay? And this is going to help to dissipate the fog. You have up next is the Emperor. Now, the Emperor is a very solid, concise individual. He makes decisions and he sticks by them, but he also listens to other individuals. Now, he's got his feet firmly planted on the earth here, which means he has a good, grounded sense of reality. However, you are probably experiencing the energy of the Knight of Cups. Your emotions are just all over the place. They're very volatile. You're allowing yourself to be taken by the ebb and flow of things. And the Emperor, he wants to help you to kind of gain a certain stability, right? So the advice from the Emperor to help you is to ground. We have the Page of Pentacles. They have, obviously there's some new inspiration, new gift, knowledge, and you think that's enough, but, they're standing here, they're not running, they're not walking, their feet firmly on the grass, they're touching grass. You need to ground. By allowing yourself to ground, you can come back to center, you can be more stable, and instead of allowing your emotions to carry you away, you can handle them more effectively. Okay. You ground, you come to the Hanged Man. Now you're able to kind of take a different perspective on the things you're experiencing. You can realize where you're hanging yourself up. You can get a different way of viewing things. Moving into the Page of Cups, you have this inspiration, right? This emotional epiphany. Maybe not like, the most profound, enlightening kind of, epiphany you would get with ecstasis, but it is related, as above, so below. You get this emotional epiphany of like, what you're experiencing in your outer reality is a reflection of what's going on in your inner reality. And the solution is Seven of Swords. This kind of, working behind the scenes to disarm the conflict, to disarm whatever the difficulties. You have the individual here sneaking into the enemy camp, stealing swords so that they cannot, attack come dawn. You want to try to find a way to disarm yourself, right? You have this knowledge now that, this frustration I'm feeling, this, anger I'm feeling, negative emotion I'm feeling, depression, whatever the case, is in fact what is causing the outer circumstance. And then you have, an outer circumstance you get frustrated about, and then that frustration causes more of the problems on the outside, and you get this loop. So you want to kind of find some sort of clever, tricky way to disarm that. Because the thing is, this comes from the Knight of Wands, right? You have the desire to move forward with something. You have this passionate energy that you want, to move forward, right? And because you're not getting where you want as quickly as you want it, you get very upset about it. The horse in this card, rearing back like this, they are definitely not in a happy mood. You might, sometimes be able to perceive this as like a more kind of triumphant, type of thing. But right now I'm seeing that this horse is not happy. When you are not happy about the ambitions that you have moving forward, you get in this kind of a war mentality. And when I mean like a war mentality, is that you start getting aggressive towards your situations. You start okay, if life's not going to cooperate for me, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to force the outcome. I'm going to force the situation. And unfortunately, that very thing is what's keeping us stuck. It's what's keeping us out in the cold. Because if you find yourself, being angry or, jaded toward those that you want to connect with, well, then you don't connect. You're out here in the cold. Just want to remind you, Page of Pentacles, get grounded. Because you could be moving into this Queen of Pentacles energy. The nurturing, receptive woman who, you know how to make good decisions. You know how to make use of your energies, your time, your connection wisely, and not through aggression, but through connection, right? Queens being that receptive energy. Practical receptivity. You need to come to realize the benefits of you getting into a more receptive energy as opposed to a more, active, trying to force type of an energy. You want to move into strength. We have the Four of Swords here. And what I'm getting the impression here is that because you're having a hard time operating from a gentler type of energy right now, you're being put in a little bit of a timeout. You got a little child throwing a temper tantrum, you put them in timeout. Give them a moment to really kind of process their emotions, cool off. And this is what you're experiencing. The disconnect you're experiencing from others is preventing you from taking out whatever the negative experience you're having on others. Now, you do have somebody waiting to help you, ready to provide you support, right? You don't have to be ultimately the active principal at all times. Yes, obviously there are certain things and actions you need to take in your life. You have responsibilities, but you don't have to bear all the weight. And I'm getting this impression that you are this Queen of Wands, and you're not seeing the King, so you're trying to take on that role yourself. And, like I said, she's responsible. She knows the actions that she needs to take. She knows the, things that she needs to do in order to sustain for herself, for her loved ones. It's okay to let somebody else support you, right? The thing is, since we know that, this frustration you're experiencing, this feeling of disconnect you're experiencing is perpetuating the feeling of disconnect, you want to try to move into this energy to where even if you don't see the support around you yet, try to feel the energy of that support, because the same way that your frustration and disconnect is creating more frustration and disconnect, if you can get into this emotional and energetic state of connection, then you're going to attract in that connection. And it's almost here, I promise you. You just, one tiny little bit of hanging on that you need to let go of. And you'll get here to the Ten of Pentacles. Not the, solitary, self-made woman, self-made man type of energy, but the prosperity through connection, through community, through sharing. Get into that feeling, that connectedness, and realize that you are, in fact, connected to, energy and life as a whole. Okay, and this is going to help you get unstuck and move forward. If anything in this reading resonated with you, I would absolutely love it if you would leave a comment, like the video. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. Head into the channel, find a video that resonates with you, and I'll see you in the next one.